Hello, everyone. Welcome to our field instructor orientation. I'm going to share with you a slide that asks you to follow some Zoom housekeeping rules. Um, Please use chat as a back channel for questions. There will be some time during parts of the presentation where you are asked questions and allowed to speak out. Um, but if that's not one of those times and you have a question you just don't want to forget, feel free to put it in the chat. We're going to ask if you could remain on mute when you're not speaking, so that background noise is not an issue. Okay, and in terms of, there'll also be a chance for you to share reactions. And so, you would click on participants in order to share those reactions. There's a little graphic there that gives a little information on that. This session is being recorded. The recording and a transcript, closed caption. Well, this is being closed captioned, but there will be a transcript that will be taken as well. The same chat will be made available. Sorry, not students, to field instructors in this group as soon as possible after the session. Okay, and we ask. I wouldn't say we ask them that you not share it, but we will, you can direct other field instructors you may know to us, and we can let them know where to find that link. Okay, thank you very much. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I know there's still a couple people dropping in on us, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Pamela Brown, for those of you who have not met me. I am the director of our field instruction program here at Jane Addams College. Okay, and the purpose of this field instruction program is to get new people on board with the way things happen at Jane Addams. All accredited social work schools have some of the same basic rules, but it looks a little different for each school because each school has their own special nuances. Okay. And I'm going to start by taking a quick poll, and I'll ask you to use your reaction button for the first time with a quick show of hands. Have you ever been a field instructor before? So if you could raise your hand. Yes. Okay, I see lots of hands being raised. Lots of hands, lots of hands. Okay, wonderful. Okay. And okay, hands down. All right. Have you been a field instructor for Jane Addams College of Social Work before? Okay. So a couple hands dropped, but some that are still up. Great. Okay, wonderful. So I'm glad that even those who have been a field instructor with us before are participating today, because there are a few changes that we want to make you aware of. And also, it never hurts to have a refresher on some of the rules that you may have heard before. Also, towards the closer to the end, we're going to have a special presentation. So that is really more inclusive for everyone, even our repeat field instructors. All right. I want to start by introducing you to our team members. I am going to introduce them, and then if they want to just say a few words about maybe how long they've been at Jane Addams, or just a quick hello, I'm going to allow them to do that. Okay, so I'll start with Carol Taylor. Oh, Carol, you're on mute. Are you having, okay, sorry, Carol's having some concerns with her equipment, some technical difficulties. Okay, I'm going to Kimberly Jenkins.
Good morning, everyone. I see a lot of familiar names. I'm looking forward to working with you all this semester, well, this year.
Thank you, Kimberly. And Kimberly's been with Jane Addams for some time now, I think 7 years. Okay.
8 years.
Oh, I'm taking away one of your years. Okay, 8 years.
Carol and I have been here 8 years.
Okay, so they've been here for some time. And I will say, so Kimberly is a field liaison, just as the other field liaisons, but Kimberly is also the liaison that works exclusively with those students who are in the school social work specialization, and she's the exclusive liaison for those students. And next we have Nereida Rosales, also goes by Neri. You introduce yourself.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. My name is Neri Rosales. I've been in this role. This is my 6th academic year. I was a student once upon a time, and I'm also part of the mental health committee currently. So looking forward to this workshop.
Thank you very much, Nettie. Okay, and we have another addition to our team, Ebony Harris.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ebony Harris. I'm the newbie of the group. I've been with Jane Addams College of Social Work in a part-time capacity since October, but full-time starting last month. I work specifically with students in the Integrated Behavioral Healthcare Training Program. So excited to be here.
Okay. And we have someone who none of us can live without, my assistant, actually assistant to the whole field department, really. She does such a wonderful job. I'll let her just say a quick hello. And that's Tasha McCullough.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tasha McCullough, Pam's assistant. I work in the front office, providing support to the liaisons as well as to Pamela. I have been with Jane Addams College of Social Work in the field instruction department since 2018, so that's about 6 years, but I've been at the university 30 years. And it's good to be here this morning. I see a lot of familiar names. Good morning.
Okay, so I'm sure everyone, that's one name everyone should recognize because it's in all the documentation that we send out. Okay, before we move forward, I'm going to introduce someone who's not listed on this slide, but again, who is just an integral part of the team. One person, I'm going to introduce 2 people. One person unfortunately could not be with us today because she's, has tons of duties and has to be present for those. And that is Dean Hairston, Dean Creasy F. Hairston, who's the dean of the college and has been the dean for several years. But I'm also going to introduce to you today Dr. Cassandra McKay, who is our Associate Dean and heads the Office of Academic Affairs and Student Services. And she is with us today and did want to say hello to everyone.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Zoom is fickle, so I always have to ask that question before I start talking. So good morning and welcome everyone, those who are new to Jane Addams College of Social Work and those who are returning. We welcome your presence, your commitment to social work education by taking on the role of field instructor. As Pamela mentioned, I am the Associate Dean. This is actually beginning my 18th year. I've spent a little bit of time away from Jane Addams, but of course, it always calls you back home. So I am glad to be back home in this capacity. I know that this is going to be a very exciting, a very productive, fruitful year for all of you all, especially for all of our students. So again, I welcome you, Jane Addams, and I will turn it back over to Pamela.
Thank you very much, Dr. McKay. Okay, so the objectives of this workshop, we hope that you're going to leave here feeling better prepared to take on your role as a field instructor for Jane Addams College, and that you will understand the requirements and expectation of the field division of our college. As I mentioned, every college has its own nuances. We want you to leave being made aware of changes that are taking place in social work education at Jane Addams College, to understand the assignments that are associated with field placement, to feel better able to complete the learning contract with the student intern. And I should say, giving the student guidance in all of their assignments. We also hope you will leave here learning or feeling better able to understand how to evaluate the student's progress during their internship. Okay. Okay, we're gonna start with a warm up, and Ebony is actually going to do our warm up, conduct our warm up. So I'm going to let her take it away, put myself on mute.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Okay, so for the first part of this exercise, we'll ask you to use the chat just because it's a lot of us. And then for the second part, that's what a few people can come off mute. But the first part of what I wanted to explore with you all is describe what you want your social work legacy to be in one word. I know when I was working as a field instructor years ago, it was important to me to understand what I wanted my impact in the field to be. And that shaped how I showed up with my students, that shaped how I showed up in my work. So I'd love to hear from you all in one word what you think your social work legacy might be. Okay, and I'll read some as they come through. Healing, hope, compassion, service. Oh, they're coming in fast. Support, equity, more compassion. Oh, lots of compassion. Empathy, enriching, connection, empowerment, more compassion. We're a very compassionate group. I love that. Hope, professionalism, supportive, empowerment, connection, hope, supportive. Okay, so it seems like we're all on the same page about, forward thinking. Oh, I like that one. It seems like we're all pretty aligned on what we want our impact in the field to be and our legacy in the field to be. So now, if a few people can come off mute and let us know, how might your role as a field instructor or supervisor contribute to that? How can you, take another step towards this legacy by supervising students? And y'all can just hop off. Don't be shy.
I can
Well,
go.
go ahead.
Hi, I'm Maria Burkowski. I'm at Chicago House Social Service Agency. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I want my students to be empowered to trust themselves. So the word that I chose was to be their mentor, because imposter syndrome is real. And if you're able, and I'll just keep it there. Because I'm a talker, I'll just stop.
Look, we love a talker. I'm a talker too, but no, thank you, Maria. And then Ted, I saw you were gonna say something.
Just saying that. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Yes, as an alum of Jane Addams, MSW and PhD, I'd just like to give back to the upcoming generation of social workers. That's my legacy, just to move this profession forward. God bless you all.
Thank you. And we'll take a few more people. Anybody else want to share about their word and how that might show up as a field instructor? And I can't see everybody, so just hop off.
I can share. Hi, I'm Scotia. I'm also with Chicago House. And I'm an MSW UIC alum as well, so it's nice to kind of be back. And I chose compassion, and I think about that as being kind of a role model of demonstrating not just compassion for clients, which is so vital, but also self-compassion, that we're not perfect. We make mistakes, we have challenges, and being able to demonstrate that that's okay to the future generation of social workers and how they can move forward from there.
Thank you. I love that. And it's a lot of Jane Addams alum in this room. See, I'm a little biased. I'm a rambler. I went to Loyola, but I accept it. No. And then we'll just take one more person before we move on.
Hi, this is Judy Altman. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I work for Guardian Hospice, and I've been in medical social work for about 27 years. And so the interns who we have in our agency are interested in elder care and then end-of-life care. And I think it's very interesting to be able to mentor them at a very at an internship where maybe, you know, younger people especially maybe aren't thinking about end of life, and just introducing them to various concepts and how important it is to become more comfortable with life and end of life care. It's just very rewarding to see, and not everyone finds it to be a fit for them, but many do, and it's very rewarding for me to be able to mentor them in this field.
Thank you, Judy. And then I just want to call attention to one person who wrote in the chat, Akila, hopefully I'm saying that name right. Akila works with CPS and works with their CPS students. And that carries to my students that I'm a field instructor also. I agree that imposter syndrome is a real thing. It definitely is. But yeah, thank you all for taking the time to share. Of course, if any more thoughts come up for you all, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And I think I started some university beef in the chat. So all right, I'm done.
Thank you very much, Ebony. Yes, I noticed a lot of school pride going on in the chat. I also want to just comment on Ebony's warm up. I think this is really a great warm up exercise. Please let me know if you can't hear me. I'm getting these messages saying my mic quality is poor. So just let me know if there's a problem. I'll try and speak louder. All right, so I was just going to say that we do the work as social workers, and of course that is invaluable to the clients that we serve. But I just want to applaud all of you for taking on a student and mentoring them and teaching them and fostering growth in the next generation of social workers. So thank you once again. You'll probably hear that a lot today. Hear a lot of thank yous and a lot of we appreciate you. Okay. So gonna go over the basics. I won't rush through, but I know some of you have heard this, so it'll just be a refresher for some of you. Okay. I always like to start with our mission statement. Like I said, every college has their nuance, some of them. So I like to start with it. Our mission is to educate professional social workers, develop knowledge, and provide leadership in the development and implementation of policies and services on behalf of the poor, the oppressed, racial and ethnic minorities, and other at-risk urban populations. So each of the people in this room, when your agency was brought on board as a partner, careful consideration was given to see, is the population you serve one of these underserved population? Is there, yes, we want to know, would you be a good teacher? And will this be a great learning opportunity for the student? We also wanted people who were committed to the mission of Jane Addams and committed to giving back to underserved populations. So that's why your agency is a partner with us. Okay, the purposes of field instruction: to provide an opportunity for students to develop as professionals in the field of social work, to provide students with the opportunity to practice the theories and concepts learned in the classroom. So, I always tell our students that way back when I was in social work school, that definitely I remember my classes and I remember the teachers and the instruction and the modalities, but what I remember most is my field instruction, because I was working with actual people who, even though I was an intern, they were looking to me for services. And I was given guidance to provide those services by my field instructor. So, CSWE doesn't have this in their description anymore, but I am going to stick with calling field instruction the signature pedagogy, because That is just a super fancy $20 word way of saying it's the main way that students learn, by doing. Okay. Field instruction also helps socialize students to the profession by indoctrination into the culture, norms, and values of the profession, and provides students with mentors in the field. My field instructor, I still keep in touch with to this day, and I was in social work school some double-digit years ago. So fortunately, she's still there serving as a mentor. It also, field education also helps students become more self-aware as they work towards the goal of becoming a professional. They can take a real look and really self-reflect on why they're in this profession and how they exercise their role. Okay, so moving on, and I'm sorry, you guys, I'm having some allergy issues. So I may have to stop and take a drink every now and then, because my throat is really drying out. I apologize. So there's a few new developments in the world of our social work education. How many people have heard of CSWE? Okay, some may have, some may have not. I don't expect you to know it. We know it very well because those initials stands for the Council of Social Work Education. And if you are an accredited program, the Council of Social Work Education is the one who sets forth the standards and the educational policy that you must follow. So we are an accredited institution, obviously. And, we'll be looking into reaccreditation in a short while. It happens every 7 years. And so CSWE has set forth some new standards. One of the new standards is the way that employment-based internships are managed by colleges. I'm not going to read this. You can read it for yourselves. What I'm going to do is kind of talk you through it a little bit. During the time of the pandemic, field education changed a lot. Many of you may remember that if you were a field instructor at that time. When it first came down, we had to pull interns. I wasn't even at Jane Addams at that time. I was at another institution in Illinois, but we had to remove our students from placements and give them alternative assignments. And it was really difficult for students to get hours and things like that. So CSWE made some provisions, like they lessened the number of hours, and they also made employment-based internships more accessible. And what we've been hearing from students since that time, COVID is still out there, but luckily we're not in a pandemic state, but COVID is definitely still out there. But even with it being to a lesser degree, there's a lot of changes that have occurred that have remained, and some of them are for the better. And this is one of them that CSWE had instituted on a temporary basis when we were in the pandemic, that they have now broadened to a broader policy. So we've always provided employment-based internship opportunities. And those were primarily, the policy was that those were reserved for our PM students, because our PM students tended to be more non-traditional students, maybe older, maybe returning back to school, who also had other work responsibilities and things like that. And it's a lot to ask any student to commit 16 hours in their generalist year and 21 to 24 hours in their specialization year. So students were allowed to do employment-based internships where they could do their internship at their place of employment, with the caveat being they had to do that internship in a different department, a different area, and they had to do it with a different supervisor. So now what CSWE has mandated is that students can do an employment-based internship. They can actually use their employment as their internship. So you don't necessarily have to find another department. You don't necessarily have to find another supervisor. So there are some caveats, of course. It has to, your job description, your formal job description has to show us that you are actually hitting the 9 competencies that the Council of Social Work Education says that every student must attain, master in order to receive a Master's of Social Work degree. So that has to happen. There also has to be an opportunity for new learning as well, even within, your current job. So I'm sure everyone understands that, but the example I always give to students to break it down even further is that if you are working for an agency, I'm just gonna say Thresholds because that springs to mind. And I don't know if this is actually a good example, but if you're a bus driver for Thresholds, okay, you could not count that employment as a place where you could do an employment-based internship, because being the bus driver is not going to give you an opportunity to demonstrate and develop those 9 competency areas. But if we have a lot of students, like I said, non-traditional students, we have a lot of students who are returning to get their graduate degree, even though they've worked in social services for some time. So they may be in an informal position or in a different type of position where they're able to demonstrate those competencies and there is an opportunity for new learning, okay? If their current supervisor is willing to take on the role of field instructor and they meet the criteria, 2 years post MSW, as well as other criteria, then they're able to use their current supervisor as well. Okay, so I just wanted to share that new development. We will still have opportunities because sometimes we'll have students who will say, well, you know what, I don't want to do it in my current job or current position. I really want to be in a different department. I want to learn something different. I hear this sometimes from some students who are DCFS. I really don't want to stay in the same department. I really want to do something different or learn something different. And they'll still have that opportunity as well. But this way they get a choice. They can choose to stay in their position if they can work that out with their employer and it's acceptable, or they can move to a different department. Okay. That was a lot of words. Does anybody have any specific questions about
I have
that?
a question, if I
Sure.
may.
Mhm.
To what degree are you
Well, I think what-
evaluating whether or
see
not
it.
the current placement is meeting those domains? Is there a percentage of the work that based off the job description should be 10% on outreach, 10% on fund development, 10% on whatever else?
So we don't really dictate or mandate how the field placement is broken down. And it would be up to, one of the things, when you see the forms, it will outline that the work hours and the internship hours should be considered separate. So, you can have a conversation with the field liaison or with myself about what that looks like. But we don't necessarily dictate, okay, they must do 20% of direct service and 20% of this type of activity. We leave that to our field partners to determine.
Your answer only gave me one more question, so I'm sorry.
No problem.
Is there a you said that can you repeat that part about the pay? They can't be paid for the same work, or it has to be separate from their work? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? I'm sorry.
So what we are hoping is that even though they're doing some of the same duties as their job, that these hours are also dedicated, that you have specific hours that these days are laid out specifically towards internship. Yeah. Even though they're doing the same duties as their employment.
Thank you, I
Yes,
appreciate it.
we have no say in how you pay them. This sentence here that says students may not accept offers of employment given during the term of a field placement. So our students have started the semester, and this has happened previously, where a field instructor really is impressed with the student's performance, and they say, "Hey, well, you know what? We want to offer you a position." And with this new development, we'll be able to offer you a position. No, that policy still stands. You cannot offer them the position midway. We still say that students, in order to take this, should have been employed by the place where they want to do their internship 6 months prior to starting their internship. They can't do it midstream. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm going to move on to another change. So I mentioned competencies when I was talking about those employment-based internships. And the Council of Social Work Education field instruction has always been competency-based. Social work education is competency-based. Are you able to demonstrate growth in these areas, development in these areas? So some of the educational policy and assessment standards to determine that have changed just a little bit. So in 2015, the educational policy and assessment standards are the ones are on the left, to my left, okay? And then on the right are the 2022 educational policy and assessment standards. You'll notice that many of them are the same. The order may have changed. So engaging diversity and difference in practice is the third competency now instead of the second. Advancing human rights and social, racial, and economic and environmental justice has changed to be the second competency instead of the third. But the rest of the competencies read pretty much the same. Some of the language has changed. There is a very express effort to include anti-racism policy and diversity, equity, and inclusion into practice. And, you know, they wanted to spell that out explicitly in these competencies. What you'll also see, we'll also see is that there will be, under the practice behaviors, some of the practice behaviors have changed a little bit. For one, I know field instructors were saying they were very redundant. Some of the redundancy has been removed, not all of the redundancy. So I want to go on a record of saying that, but some of it has been removed. So some of the competencies where they had 5 practice behaviors and now it's maybe more like 2 instead of 5. Okay. And we ask that all of our educational partners have to address each of these when they are evaluating the students. So Council of Social Work Education said, you know, we're noticing in preparation of students to become social workers, we're seeing too much no opportunity to observe in these benchmarks. People are saying that a little too often. We want you to remove that from the evaluation. They have to set something forth where students are able to engage in that particular type of practice, to demonstrate that particular practice behavior and show some growth in that competency. And if that's a struggle for field instructors and for students, because sometimes it is hard to go, well, how am I going to show that they are engaged in policy practice when we're really doing so much micro level work here? Your field liaison will help walk you through that, give you some examples of things that you can do that will be able to demonstrate that. Okay. Right now, I do have to say that these standards are in place for our generalist students. So that will be our first year students or our students doing their first field instruction practicum. The specialization competencies and practice behaviors have not changed yet. Those will change in the spring. So you may see a little bit of a difference in the spring from one evaluation to the other. But the generalist ones have already been changed. And you will see that, you know, if you're a repeater, you might say, wow, this looks a little different. It is a little different, and this is what has changed. Okay. So, in the interest of not taking up too much time, I'm going to move on, but if you have something you want to put it in the chat, I'll make sure to address it later. All right. So I want to go on and move into the basics of field instruction and some of the field instructor expectations. Okay. So I always joke with the students, you have all these words with field and you get them confused. Some you may get them confused. It's very easy. Say, okay, who's the field instructor? Who's the field liaison? Who is who? What is which? Okay, the field instructor is you. And the main word in that is instructor. And the duties are bullet pointed here that we ask you to provide orientation, training, consultation, weekly supervision, create rich, valuable learning opportunities that connect theory to practice, help students connect to social work values and ethics, and monitor and evaluate field work performance. The field liaison is the person at the school. It's the link between the student, the school, and the agency. Excuse me, and the field liaison supports the student and the field instructor. So definitely, you know, if you need, I'm sorry, that flipped on me. If you need assistance or consultation, please reach out to the field liaisons. This is, you know, what they're here for. They're here to help you as well. The field liaison also provides the student with additional social work perspective. There is no field seminar course here, but they do, you know, sometimes will consult with students to help them get additional social work perspective. They mediate between the student and field instructor if issues should arise. They facilitate connections between the curriculum and field, and also monitor and evaluate the field work performance. Okay. And lastly, the student, because the student, there are expectations of the student as well. They're not just to, you know, be an empty vessel just being poured into. They should do things as well, such as coming to supervision prepared, being an active learner, seeking experiences within the field, completing their tasks and assignments in a timely manner, integrating classroom learning and field experience, and monitoring and evaluating their own field work performance. So the last line on the bottom of each of these is the same. Everyone should be monitoring and evaluating the field work performance, because this is how the students learn. This is how they become a social worker. All right. And then just a cute little graphic here just showing all the parties together. That fourth party should be the college, the curriculum, their professors are working together to create this solid learning experience with classroom and field integration and ongoing evaluation. Okay. So the field instructor expectations. Oh, sorry, guys, I'm missing some. I'm sorry, I'm kind of scrolling through because I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, it's after this. Sorry, guys. Okay, so the field instructor expectations, providing rich educational opportunities, collaborating with the student to develop an educational plan. So that learning plan, it's going to be due in a few weeks. So that's a collaborative process. You and the student should work together on that. And sometimes I'll see field instructors take it and they'll just fill it all on their own. But definitely, it's time for you to hear from the student what they want to learn and for you to say, well, this is what we can provide to you. Please the field instructors are expected to orient the student to the agency, its practices and guidelines, to present an example of a professional social worker, to provide weekly supervision, whether that's individually or in a group, to attend the field orientation session, and that's what you're doing right now. So complete a performance evaluation for the student that assesses the student's mastery of the competencies, and to approve the student's submitted timesheets. And the team will talk a little bit about those assignments in more greater depth than I am. And again, I just wanted to be known, the field instructors especially, we hold the students to some expectations as well. And we're holding them to a high standard. We expect them to display professional behavior consistent with the code of ethics, and to collaborate with the field instructor on the learning plan, to demonstrate effort and initiative in their educational experience, to be accountable to your agency's practices and guidelines, to participate actively in supervision, to communicate with the field liaison or other field staff concerns or complications that occur in placement, and to complete the field assignments for each semester and to remain in the same field placement for the academic year, unless it's deemed inappropriate by the field division. So there are standards for the students as well. And I'm going to go to that bullet point that's a third from the bottom, point the little arrow at it to communicate with the field liaison. Again, the field liaison is not just there for students. If you have concerns about a student or anything, if you feel the student's not living up to these expectations, please reach out to their field liaison. Hopefully, we don't want field instructors to wait until they're so fed up that they're like, okay, the students just gotta go. We want us to work together as a team, to collaborate as a team, so that we can develop a work plan to develop the student and improve the student's performance. All right, there will be, and I'm sorry, I was scrolling through because I was looking for some slides that I did not put. There's going to be sent to you maybe a week or so after this presentation, a field instructor contract. We're going to solicit your resumes. We are required to do that by our accrediting bodies. And if you need to redact it, if you want to redact certain information, address, telephone number, anything like that, you may do so. But our accrediting body wants us to have the resumes of our field instructors, because we want to be sure that everyone has the proper credentials. All right. Now, to the basics before we turn it over to assignments. Just wanted to talk, our program is only a master's program. We do not have a BSW program. And our students are required to do 2 placements. One is a generalist placement, and it's meant to assist students as they build foundational social work skills. We have some students chomping at the bit. They want to do therapy. They say, oh, this placement is not clinical. Okay, and we explain to them the generalist placement is not designed to be clinical. We do know there are some placements that do allow first-year students to do some one-on-one individual counseling work, but that's not the majority of our generalist placements. And I'm not going to get into a long diatribe about social work. Is not just counseling. So I won't get into a diatribe, but this is what I'm always sharing with students. So this placement is designed, again, to build foundational social work skills. Hopefully, we're hoping they get to work with individuals, groups, communities, and organizations across the board, doing some micro and macro level practice. But again, we don't mandate or dictate to your agency that certain percentages must be doing certain things. We also, in the generalist placement, want to emphasize to students that they should be viewing clients and client systems from a strengths-based perspective. Excuse me. Our specialization placements, that's where students are allowed to engage in social work practice in a particular area of specialization. So we have 5 specializations, and this is where students can get their hands really dirty in the type of placement where they hope that maybe they will spend their career. Maybe it's mental health, school social work, organizations and community practice, which is our macro level social work specialization, social work and justice systems, which can be micro or macro or both, and child and family specialization. Excuse me, y'all. Okay, the hours. Now, that is one thing that we do mandate, and we ask you to please adhere to our hours, because we want our students to get their hours in time and to graduate in time. So the minimum hour requirements based on the students, generalists are to complete 450 hours. And that's typically completed in 15 hours per week for 2 15-week semesters. Our PMs, most students do that during the academic year from the end of August to the end of April of the following year. But our PM students sometimes have the opportunity to do that in the spring and the summer. And then the word typically is there also because we also have students who can do that during a summer block placement where they complete their placement in just 12 weeks, but they're there for 40 hours per week. And that's the generalist placement. The specialization placement, we bump up those hours, but also we're hoping it's not just the hours that increase, but the level of responsibility because they're at a higher level now and they should be held to a different standard than the generalists. And those students, in order to achieve those 630 hours, should do a minimum of 21 hours per week for 2 15-week semesters. All students must do that during the academic year. We don't have a flexible schedule around the specialization year. Okay, the students are expected to be in field instruction for the full academic year. We do not allow students to bank hours and end early. So sometimes students pop up in March say, I got my 630 hours, and we will let them know. But the expectation is that you are in your placement until the end of April. School specialization students will follow their placements calendar. So a lot of school, they must be there for the entirety of that school's academic year. And sometimes that means they start a little earlier than Jane Addams and they end a little later. Sometimes they'll graduate. We graduate in early May. It's typically, I think, that first weekend in May. And sometimes those students will, go through the ceremony and get their diploma and celebrate and are right back to internship on Monday morning. Okay. There are other agencies we work with that ask students if they can stay a bit longer. We really, really stress that should be told to the student actually during the offer so they can make a decision if this is something that they want to do. We have no problems with them doing that, but that needs to be communicated to them early on. Like I said, preferably when an internship offer is made. Okay. All right. I am going to, at this point, I have been talking a lot at you. I'm going to stop for a minute, ask, are there any quick questions? And then I'm going to turn it over to our team who will be talking about assignments. I know there's going to be a breakout as well. Actually, I'll ask you to hold questions because I see one question about will we get these slides? Yes, the slides will be made available. They're going to be on our website. I will check and see if we can email them to you, but they will be on our website. The entire presentation will be on the website. Okay. Okay. As I said, what we're going to do now to talk about the assignments, typically during this time, we do a breakout because school social work, although they do the same assignments, there's a little bit of difference that is better explained by Kimberly. So I'm going to ask someone from our tech team to guide that process for the people who need to break out, and those of you who are not school social workers will stay in this main room where Nettie and Ebony will talk about those assignments. So is Therese on board to direct people? Okay.
Yes, I will open the breakout room for the school social work assignments. And you should be able to see a button to join the breakout room. And you should be able to choose to join the breakout room.
So if you're a school social work field instructor, please join the breakout room. If you are training your students to be school social workers to achieve their professional educator's license, please join the breakout room. Okay, I see quite a few people have gone into that room, and then some just have stayed here. I'm going to assume the people who stay here are not in school social work. And at this point, I am going to turn it over to Nettie, who will begin to speak with you about the assignments for our other students, our other generalist and specialization students.
Oh, and hey, Pam, really quickly, people are posting that they're not getting a link to join the breakout room they need to get to.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That message should show, a button should show at the top, I believe, of your screen. You should see it. If not, at the bottom of the screen, there should be, where all your other controls are, there should be a control for breakout rooms.
Is there any, if you can put your name in the chat, if you're not sure how to get there, but you need to be there, and I will assign you to that room. I see one name. Okay, no, she must have got in. Anyone who still needs to be assigned to that room, just send the chat and let me know. Okay, I'm not seeing any messages in the chat from anyone else who needs to be assigned. So I think that we can move forward with Nettie.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. I will be covering or going over the learning plan and semester evaluation. And my hopes is to, well, a couple of things. Help you locate the documents. I'll speak a little louder. Let me fix my mic. My hopes is to help you locate the documents as well as kind of like helping you understand what is it that we're looking for, providing some examples, once again, for both the learning plan and for the semester evaluation. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Let's see. Are you all able to see my screen?
Yeah, and Neri, they're saying you're really quiet.
Okay, I'll try I'll try to speak a little bit louder. Is this better? Yes, okay, great. So assuming you have your login ID, you have your user ID to log into Sonia, this will be the first screen that you see. If you are an instructor that forgot their password or ID, please reach out to any of the liaisons to make sure that you have access to the portal, as hours and documents will be tracked through the portal. So very important that you have access to it. So once again, assuming you have logged in, this is what your home screen will look like. Please note that this is a test fictional field instructor that I'm using. So none of the information or demographic information is real. So we're going to click the forms button, and please note it takes a little for the forms to actually load. And as soon as those load, I will walk you through where to locate the documents. So once you scroll through the bottom of the Forms tab, you will see the forms needed, the form names. I'll specifically talk about the learning plan and the semester evaluation. So starting with the learning plan, to open the document, we go to what is my right side of the screen, where you'll see what looks like a little paper icon. You click on that, and that opens or generates another screen, which will bring us to our learning plan. Please note, this is a very lengthy document, and I say that to allow yourself and the student enough time to complete the learning plan. I don't think I have previously shared with you, but the due date for the learning plan is September 27th. So you guys can start working on that learning plan with your students. It should be a collaborative effort between student and field instructor or anyone else that might be working with the student. I like to see the learning plan as kind of like the map for what the educational plan will look like for the students. I like to read the learning plan and have a couple of things to learn throughout the learning plan, when the student's in field, when supervision is taking place, and what are the activities that the student will be tasked with throughout the academic year. And these are learning activities, of course. So working through the learning plan. Part 2 of the learning plan will be automatically kind of like created or entered with your information as a field instructor. Please let us know if the information that appears on your learning plan is not correct. We want to make sure that we have the right agency, department, phone number, and demographic information. Moving on to part 3 of the learning plan, this is signatures for the student and the field instructor. This would be a box that the student would sign. Therefore, you do not have access. I'm trying to click on the box, but I don't have access because I'm not the student. Don't have access to the date because once again, I'm not a student. You are logged in as a field instructor. And just to help you navigate the form, every time you see a little red asterisk, both in the learning plan and the semester evaluation, that's to hint you that this is a box that you as a student, as a field instructor, need to complete. Whether it's a signature, a date, something is required of you. If that box is left blank, when you try to submit the learning plan or the evaluation, you'll get an error message. So as I walk through the learning plan, I'll be highlighting like little stars, once again, reminding you that, hey, something needs to be entered here. And something that I didn't share initially, the learning plan or the way Sonia works, it's something that the student, you as a field instructor, and myself, the field liaison, have access to. So all 3 of us can be working on the document at the same time. Think of it as like the cloud, where until you submit the document, you can make edits, you can modify it, and all 3 parties, or as many as needed, some agencies have more than one field instructor, will have access to view and edit the learning plan and semester evaluation. So moving on to specifics that we're looking for, Pamela discussed our requirement. This is where we'll closely look at when is a student in field? How are they adding up or tallying up the 15 to 16 hours if they're a first-year student, or those 21-hour requirement if they're a specialization student. We are looking for the specific time and date of when supervision will be scheduled. And then once again, you don't need to complete anything on the boxes that don't have a red. I'm going to not quickly, but kind of scroll through the learning plan just to give you guys an idea of the length of the learning plan. As Pamela previously discussed, we're looking at 9 competencies. So I'll just scroll through the document, competency 2, 3, 4, and so forth, as we get to competency number 9. So the purpose of me scrolling through this was once again just to stress the length of the learning plan. I'll specifically give examples and kind of like help you guys understand what is it that we're looking for when we look at these learning plans. Under each competency, you'll see practice behaviors. What we're asking both students and field instructors is to develop the learning plan with activities, readings, direct service practice work, trainings, workshops of how each students will meet each of the practice behavior around the work that they'll be completing with the organization. Let me move my screen around. You're able to see, once again, these red little stars, asterisks, letting you guys know, hey, there is text that needs to be inputted. What are we looking for? We're looking for a sentence, an example, or a paragraph, a detailed explanation of what each of the students will be doing. We do ask that we ask and encourage both instructors and students to be as detailed as possible and to have a practice behavior or activity that is for each of the boxes and practices behavior within the competencies. This will make the evaluation, semester evaluation, that is a lot easier to navigate and to grade. And once again, if we leave an empty box, you'll get an error at the bottom of the screen when you try to submit your learning plan. Also, I think Pamela mentioned earlier, repetition and can this form look or be a little bit repetitive? With that being said, there might be a specific practice activity that might be applicable for different behaviors or even different competencies. That is okay. An example that I'll cover specifically is competency number 1, demonstrate ethical and professional behavior. What are we looking for as examples for specific activities? Within the making ethical decisions by applying the standards of the National Social Work Code of Ethics, relevant laws and regulations, models of ethical decision-making, ethical conduct of research, and additional codes of ethics as appropriate to context. What does that mean? It can be something like student and field instructor will review the code of ethics during supervision. Another example for the second practice behavior, which I did not complete, can be that the student will once again review the agency's policies and procedures and also complete the agency's orientation. Once again, you can be as detailed and as descriptive and provide as many examples as you wish. I will not go through every single competency because that will take way too much time. But what I want to walk you through is the bottom of the screen where you'll find a save button. This allows you to save your progress as you work through the learning plan. And then the submit button, which will allow you to fully submit, hopefully with no errors. That will then come to me for grading. It's important to know that I mentioned earlier that this is a 3-part system where student, field instructor, and myself have access to the learning plan. What we ask is that the field instructor submits the form or the learning plan after the student submits their version of the learning plan. Once field instructors submit the learning plan, the students will not be able to make any edits or modification. So our hopes are that as you all are working through this and everything's finalized and reviewed, that the student will submit first, followed by the field instructor. And then once again, I'll be the third person submitting for a grade. I know this is a lot of information, but to help you navigate this, I'm going to take you guys all back to the home page. Give me 1 second. Are you guys still able to see my screen? Ebony, are you able to see my screen as I'm scrolling through?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So once we go back to the home page, and I save this little kind of piece of information till the end, at the, my right side of the screen, you'll see a learning sample on letterhead. And I've actually downloaded this document. So what I'm gonna do is stop sharing my screen and share a new screen with you, which is a sample of the learning plan. This is divided into each of the, once again, 9 competencies, and this can give you ideas on what we're looking for the specific competencies. If you feel like, okay, I don't know what to write within like the the policy or the research competency, I tend to get the most questions around those. You can use this as a guide or get some ideas on what those activities and tasks can look like when completing specifically the policy or the research or any of the 9 competencies. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this screen. And once again, all field instructors have access to the sample learning plan. What I'm gonna do is kind of go back into Sonia and help you now navigate through the semester evaluation. And just bear with me because I have a couple of screens open. Once again, we go to the
As you are, I'm sorry, before you get into the evaluation, you may notice that the learning plan samples are reflective of the previous competencies that I share with you. As I mentioned, only the order and the wording has changed, so those examples are still valid. We will be updating that form, but it will not be updated until later in the year when after the learning plan is due. So you are definitely still able to use those samples because only the orders of 2 and 3 have changed, and a little bit of the language in 2. Thank you.
perfect. So semester evaluation, very similar process. We are going to click on this little page icon, and we will get our learning plan. It will take a little bit to load. Taking a little bit longer. Okay, here we go. So please note, and I'll start with this, these little stars, they keep popping up. I'll start with Part A of the learning plan. We're asking for field instructors to provide a recommended grade for students of satisfactory or unsatisfactory. We're asking for field instructors to identify the number of hours students have earned at the time the evaluation is completed. The evaluation is due at the end of the semester, which is December 6th. Now, you'll be responsible for completing 2 evaluations, and this is you and student, of course. You complete an evaluation at the end of each of the semesters. So you'll complete one for the fall semester, and then you'll also complete one for the spring semester. So at the end of the semester, as previously discussed for the hours, students should be at that 225-hour mark. If they are a first-year student, if they're a second-year student, they should be around the 315-hour mark. Something that we didn't go into a lot of detail is the importance of tracking the hours for students, of course, but equally as important for field instructors to approve the hours. We will ask for all hours to be submitted by students and approved by the field instructor at the end of every semester. Part 1B, that's the students portion of the signature, acknowledging that they read through the evaluation, agree with the grade, and we're asking for their electronic signature. This is field liaison also signing off on the evaluation. You guys don't have access to that. And then part 4, it's asking for a summary of field instructions activities, the number of assessment, client, direct client work, case management, group work, and so forth. If you don't have a specific number, it's totally fine to round. Very similar, the bottom of this screen, it's asking for the list of percentages of the population served. Once again, you can round, but be as specific as you remember. Important parts to note, the semester evaluation has a rating scale. We have a rating scale of 1 to 4, from minimal understanding of the competency to developing the competency to emerging in the competency to a number 4, understands full competency. We also have a number 9, which is basically telling us the student hasn't had an opportunity to observe yet. So going back on how important it is to have a very detailed learning plan, that's because in the learning semester evaluation, we're asking for students and field instructors to rate each of the competencies and practice behaviors. This particular example of a evaluation, the student has already, I try to highlighted everything. The student has already rate themselves, and the students will do this individually with their portal access. And field instructors, what we're asking you to do is to also rate the student by using our rating scale discussed previously from a 1 to 4 or a 9 with no opportunity to observe. You will do this through each of the competencies. Drop-down menu, select a number, and so forth. We will also ask for field instructors to discuss or give us a narrative of the student's performance within each of the behavior competencies. Just a little summary of how the ratings came about. Our hopes are for students and instructors to have a conversation come end of semester to discuss where are we, in essence, midpoint through this internship experience. What are the things that I'm doing great in? What are the things that I might need additional support in? What are the things that student, is enjoying? And what are the things that maybe they're not enjoying as much? And more or less, this is a segue into a conversation of what do we prepare for the spring semester? What are the things that we identified in our learning plan back in September that we're now reviewing in December that we need to focus on throughout the spring semester? My hopes are that when this evaluation is submitted to me, that there are no surprises because there's been a conversation. There's been collaborative work with the learning plan, the semester evaluation, and throughout the semester during supervision, that this is in essence, an open discussion of, hey, this is what I see, and students, and that the student would be also as open and receptive to hearing your feedback. You will complete the same steps, once again, for each of the competencies. After every competency, you will be asked field instructors to give us some additional information in regards to the student and their performance. Students do not have to write anything in this box. It's strictly for field instructors. They're only responsible for completing, of course, some of the information at the top with the demographics and the populations, but also the actual ratings are listed under students. They do not have access to like the feedback boxes. So I'll kind of like scroll down to the bottom of the evaluation to highlight two kind of like boxes towards the end of the evaluation. This one being a description of the strategies, tasks, and activities that you use to evaluate the student throughout all of the competencies, followed by an overall summary or narrative of the student's performance, strengths, and areas of future learning. Similar to the learning plan, there is a save button where you can save your progress. And then of course, the submit button that will come directly to me. Just like the learning plan, field instructors should submit their version of the evaluation once students have submitted their part. I know that was a lot of information. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if anyone has any questions.
Maddie, would you share we had some questions regarding the timesheets. Will you share the timesheet page so they can see how to look at the total number of hours that have been accrued?
Let me get my. So under Students tab, timesheets. Is this what they're asking for, Carol? Okay. And these are the timesheets. Once again, this is a fictional field instructor looking at a fictional student, but these are the timesheets that are logged, date, duration. Sometimes students can edit what they do in a day and write a short description of whatever tasks they completed throughout their intern days. This is the approve button. And if you click over it, it'll tell you what it is, the unapproved. And then if you need to resubmit and kind of like bounce back to the student. You can also highlight them all And at the bottom of the screen, massive approve, unapproved, or resubmit hours.
And then the example we're showing doesn't have actual approved hours on it, but you can scroll down on the page and it'll give the number of hours total. But you have to scroll down sometimes if your page isn't open as far as it can go, you won't see it automatically. So scrolling down is when you'll be able to access that.
Hi, sorry, quick question about this screen. So the students are entering this and then we go in and approve it. Is that what I understand?
Correct.
Okay, got
The
it.
students were instructed to submit their hours, ideally, in a week, in a daily, basis. But what we're definitely pushing for is for students to at least submit them at the end of every week, and to connect with field instructors to develop a schedule, so that you as a field instructor can go in and approve those hours. We do not encourage students to wait till the end of the semester because, you probably won't remember what you did, back in September. And also kind of like reminding them that if they don't remember what they did on that day, field instructors probably won't remember either, which is fair to say. So we really encourage students to submit their hours and then kindly remind instructors like, hey, I've submitted for the whole month, for the full week. Can you go in and approve those hours? Any other questions?
I have a couple questions. I don't know if this is a good time for it, but are students allowed to be at the agency during Christmas break and spring break?
Pamela?
You can go ahead and answer that question.
So we've also met with students and kind of explain to them what we're hoping happens. So we are hoping that there is a conversation that has already been held or will be held soon in regards of what those expectations are. Our students are away from classes for a little bit under a month. The semester, as I mentioned, ends December 6th, and they're not back in classes until January 13th, is it? January something teen. So what we've asked them to do is to have a conversation with field instructors, with agency, to plan time away from field. We do not encourage or recommend that students are away the entire, let's just say, month. We want them to at least plan for 2 weeks away from field. If additional time is needed, if there's a trip plan or whatnot, to have a conversation with you all to figure out what that's going to look like. We want to advocate for students to be away from field for at least 2 weeks, but we also understand that come December, a lot of them might be working directly with clients. So we want to find the balance of where we're just not leaving for a whole month, coming back, middle, second week of January. We want a plan, a conversation, and just discussion around that. And the same goes for winter break. Winter break, it's a long time from now. I believe it's the week of March 24th. And we encourage them to have a conversation and plan to take that week off. What exceptions would be if the student's behind in hours, if assignments have not been completed, if there's work that needs to be made or catch up, or any of things that we can really account for, that if any of those scenarios happen, that's also the time for them to make up hours that they might fall behind on, or work or notes or whatnot.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. And then the last one was, we have had, I've been doing this a long time. We've had surgeries, we've had deaths, we've had, mental health concerns. Like, is the school support like an X grade if a student doesn't get their hours in time, or how do we work that? So if a student is behind by the next semester, how do we work that for them?
So Kimberly, well, I'll talk to the entire team really quickly. I'll just run short on time. Definitely speak with your the assigned field liaison for your student about any hour concerns. We try to work with the agency, and hopefully the agency can provide time for students to make up those hours. They won't fail, especially if you feel like their performance has been appropriate while they're there. But we can talk about ways to make up hours, and we'll work with you together
Okay.
as a team to do that.
As you can imagine, they're all freaked out that something will happen and they will fail out. So that's why I thought I would get that clarified. But thank you very much.
No problem. Yes. Now Ebony will tackle the other two assignments, the reflection and the evaluation of practice.
I think
Okay, there we go.
Sorry,
And Pam, can you share the slides on your end? Okay. Okay, so now moving on to the next couple assignments. So the assignments that Neri just spoke about are very much collaborative between the student and the field instructor. So the next couple assignments I'm going to talk about are predominantly student-led. So the first assignment that I want to speak to is the self-reflection. So that's an independent student assignment that allows them to reflect and really conduct an appraisal of their field placement experience. So this allows them to be intentional about, what their first semester experience has been, rather than I'm getting these hours just working through them. So this allows them to really take pause and evaluate different areas of their experience. So some of the areas that are highlighted in that assignment are, their progress during the placement. Are there goals that they've met for their learning experience? Are there future goals that they hope to accomplish in the next semester? They would also speak to factors contributing to the achievement of competence. So that could be support from field instructors. That can be any particular training and onboarding successes that there were. And in addition to that, also personal reflections regarding the field placement. So I know some of these I read speak to, this sort of environment is a good fit for me career-wise. I'm really just thinking more deeply about that field placement experience and any additional comments that they want to share with us. So that's an assignment that all students enrolled in field have to complete. There'll be one for the first semester and the second semester. The first semester reflection is due December 6th. That says 2024. And then the second semester reflection is May 2nd, 2025. So most of this assignment will be completed by the student. They probably won't need much from you all as it relates to this, because as I said, it's a very personal reflection and experience. So that actually is only accessible to the student and field liaison. Yeah, go next. So that's a pretty easy one. So the next big one that we want to speak to is the evaluation of practice assignment. So that is very student-led, but there is a role that you all will play in completing that. So the overall goal of that is to get students in the habit of thinking critically about how they know if their work is achieving its goals and or intended purpose. So, they're meeting with clients, they're, doing whatever tasks are assigned to them. How do we know that it's actually making a difference? And this assignment is done in conjunction with some of the research courses that take place, so that they can kind of link their practice to those research practice methods. So that's a broad assignment for all MSW students at Jane Addams. They have to complete one during their generalist year, and then followed by another one during their specialization year. And for advanced standing, of course, they would just complete the one during that advanced year. So students will complete this for each of their field placements as I named. The biggest role that field instructors have in this assignment is helping the student figure out what exactly we want to focus on and how we track that. And I was going to pull up something. Pam, can I share my screen really quickly? Okay. So I wanted to pull up the template here for the evaluation of practice, if I can get all of this off of my screen. Okay. So a lot of students end up doing single system designs for their evaluation of practice. Now, there's other options available, but we find that most students end up doing this method because it's most applicable to what they're doing. So I just wanted to kind of go through an example that's provided in the assignment to kind of start to jog for you what might be something the student could focus on. So for this example, the client is Bill, a 15-year-old called in because of missing classes. Bill is an average student, single parent family, no previous disciplinary problems. So the problem we're evaluating, Bill denied any of this was a problem, but grudgingly consented to see the clinician. It became apparent that the first goal had to be that Bill should come in to see them more regularly and stay the whole time since Bill was doing neither. So this person decided to measure how Bill was doing on this goal. So the way in which they measure that was counting the number of kept appointments. So this is one that's a very simple measure, no standardized, evaluations or assessments. It's just counting how many appointments that Bill engaged with. They kept track of how many minutes Bill was late and how long Bill stayed for each weekly appointment. And then they put all of these on charts. A kept appointment was operationally defined as Bill either coming as scheduled or asking beforehand to reschedule and keeping the new appointment. In addition, you break down what the interventions were to help achieve these results. So this person intervened by confronting Bill that Bill hadn't been spending much time here. They asked empathically whether Bill had anything that Bill wished was different about Bill's life. I also heard it was hard to have people pushing you to come in when you're not sure you want to. So that was their particular method of intervention to try to reach desired results. So here you can see how they did their results breakdown. It showed a dramatic response to the intervention of 2 to 15. The implications were first that Bill is responsive to appropriate confrontation. And second, we can now focus on Bill's problems. So you can see here in this example, there's a chart to show attendance and minutes attended. Okay, let me stop sharing. Okay, so that was just one really simple example of what the student could be doing. Now, we know for a lot of agencies, there's standardized assessments that can be used, whether that's the PHQ-9, the IM CANS, the GAD scale. So there might be methods that are, unique to your specific placement that might be helpful for the student to look at to gauge, okay, are the interventions that I'm testing really effective? Are the methods that I'm trying really effective? So your biggest role for this is really working with the student to make sure they understand how could I be evaluating this and really starting to plan soon so that they're aware of the data that they need to collect and have time to do it. So that assignment is not due until March 7th, 2025, but start talking about it now. If there's particular ideas that you have about assessments or ways in which to go about this assignment, it is helpful for students to start talking early so that they can start to pick their cases out and track their progress. Okay. Any questions about those two assignments?
There any questions about any of the assignments? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Nettie and Ebony. Definitely, the field liaisons will be contacting you soon to set up site visits, and they'll be more than happy to speak with you in greater detail about those assignments when they do come out. We are going to take a brief break in case people want to get a little water, stretch their legs or anything like that. Take a brief break. And we'll log back in at 11:10 for Carol, who will be doing a presentation on supervision to increase student success. So, like I said, if you want to take a moment, you can, and we'll be back to our presentation at 11:10. Thank you. See people returning from the school social work session. We're taking a brief break before we go into Carol's presentation on supervision. So if you want to take a moment, we'll be joining back together for that presentation at 11:10. So anyone who was in the school social work presentation, we're on a brief break until 11:10. You want to stretch your legs, get some water. This is a great time to do so. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, welcome back. Okay, so our theme of the year is really emphasizing and focusing on the instruction part of field instruction. And so to that end, we're hoping to host a couple brown bags and even some field instructor workshops to help you feel more capable in your role as a field instructor. I want to start that kickoff with one of our liaisons who has been here, as Kimberly mentioned. Carol has been here for 8 years. She's very well versed in working with students. And she is going to take this time to present to you some things that she put together that will talk about supervising to ensure student success. So I'm going to turn it over to Carol Taylor, who will begin.
Thanks, Pamela. Hello, everyone. I did not get to introduce myself. I was having some technical difficulties. Hopefully, I will not have those again. As mentioned, my name is Carol Taylor. I'm one of the field liaisons. Some of you will be working with me this year. Some of you may have worked with me in previous years. To the rest of you, nice to meet you over the Zoom platform. I'm going to share my screen. All right. All right. I think I will do it. I'm trying to decide if I should do it this way or if it's going to be too. I hate that that stupid Zoom thing comes in the way. Everybody's got to navigate when they first start the thing. Is like, oh, wait, this is how it goes. Okay. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is supervising to increase student success. And so we've provided a lot of information in regards to what like what you need to do and a lot of the like Sonia information and a lot of information. So I'm hoping that this one will be a little bit more interactive. So I hope that you are open to sharing in the chat and everything and getting involved a little bit more on this one. And so let's see, why am I not starting? Okay, I'll just do it this way. So my agenda is to kind of go over goals of supervision. Some of them, I'm sure there are lots of other ones that everybody will come up to. Talking a little bit about mutuality in supervision, how we can promote self-reflection in our students and in ourselves, and then talking about how this all comes together for the time when you're going to be evaluating the student and what that will look like. And so with that, what are some of the goals of student supervision? Some of the things that you see as goals, and let's see how those compare to what everybody else is thinking. All right, I am struggling with seeing the. Nope, that's not. Oh, no, it's not sharing. Sorry. I think I'm going to show you this later. I was trying to get my chat box up and I cannot see the chat. Suggestions on seeing the chat. There we go. Okay, now I got the chat box. Nope, now you're seeing all the chat box. Okay. All right. Okay, to create a safe.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna read them, but you found them.
Oh, got it. Okay, yeah, I got them. Okay. Connecting reflective supervision, education, space for discussion, professional standards, open communication. Those are really great. And a bunch of them are going to be mentioned. And so on next, ethics and boundaries, obviously, that is a big one for all of us. We need to make sure that we are talking about ethics and boundaries, ensuring the students are learning about them in class. Connecting social work competencies that we just went over, and we saw that there's some new ones and how that looks. Client welfare on how the students are interacting with clients, and especially those students who are doing direct service work and everything like that. That is probably going to be a big portion of your time during supervision, of talking about what that looks like, what to do about that. Accountability, and this is sometimes a hard one as a supervisor. For some of you, you supervise other staff. at your organization. Others of you, this may be your first experience supervising, and this may be how your organization is giving you some more areas and experience and everything like that by having you supervise a student for the first time. So the accountability is part of it. It's, you know, everything from the professional side of things of showing up on time in a good space for the clients, or it may be making sure that their paperwork is submitted on time, or assessments are done in the proper channels at the right time. Also performance evaluation, which we'll talk about later, and how we're evaluating the student's performance, the professional development and social work identity, and kind of, you know, those things that are needed to help them to be ready once they leave, especially those of you that are working with students that will be graduating in May. This is going to be especially important to them, because when they leave, they'll be going and moving forward to finding a new employment and everything. And we want to have them as ready as we can to be prepared to do that. So now, a different way of looking at things is talking about mutuality and supervision. And when I say that, what are some of the things that you think of? If you could put it in the chat, that would be great. Learn from each other, yes. Open dialogue, yes. Collaboration, both parties being equally invested, co-learning, yes. Two-way feedback, yes, we're going to talk about that. Collaboration, space for students to provide feedback, yes. All of those are really great. So just so everybody has an idea, and the same definition for mutuality, it's defined as either the quality or state of being mutual, or a sharing of sentiments. I thought it was really interesting they said intimacy too in the dictionary, but I'm really want to really focus on that sharing of sentiments and everything, and kind of what that looks like from a student, and what that looks like from your perspective as the supervisor, being the person who's overseeing that. So I want to talk a little bit about ways we can promote this mutuality with your students. First is acknowledging the power differentiation between you and them and everything. As a supervisor, obviously, you have, you know, more authority. You are, you know, and we go back to some of those things that I talked about of what supervision does. You have holding them accountable and things like that. So kind of talking about that reality of what that looks like and everything. And also sharing your expectations with the students, so they know what you are looking for from them. And that could be anything from, I expect you to show up on time. Like the day start, you know, you're supposed to be here at 9 a.m. I'd like you to be here at 9 a.m. For some of you that, in some organizations, that's a little more flexible and everything like that in regards to hours, but talking about dress code, some of those professional side of them. But then also expectations could be regarding how you want them to bring difficult conversations to you. How do you want to talk about how you want them to bring conversations that they had, and explaining scenarios? Like, do you want them to come to supervision, kind of sharing their experiences with maybe a client or even a colleague that you work with at the organization and stuff, and encouraging kind of that back and forth feedback. Then also, you want to encourage critical thinking by having students bring questions to supervision. So what we want to do is we want the students to be able to think critically as often as possible, because we know that results in them being better social workers, better professionals in the future and everything. And so part of that is having them come prepared with questions that they may have. And it could be everything from questions on how to interact, you get the questions on, like, I can't figure out how the printer works and things like that. But we want to expand into those areas of like, why is there this power differentiation in who gets assigned who? Or how are some clients able to receive some services but aren't because of funding and things like that? We want to kind of think about and ponder those, bigger questions too, not just the smaller ones. And then and up front, this is a great thing to think about, is modeling difficult conversations early on in the school year, to encourage them to feel that you are a safe place for them to come with more difficult conversations as the year progresses. And some of some of that may be in part of that, like sharing expectations and everything, or maybe sharing examples of difficult things that happen with previous students you've worked with or previously employees and everything, because they're going to be gathering a lot of like knowledge in their heads from classroom, and we want them to connect as much as possible to the actual field work and everything. And so being able to kind of talk about those power differentiations between clients and the staff, cultural differences, all the different things that come up that are sometimes a little bit more challenging and uncomfortable to talk about. Being able to do those from the beginning of the school year really will help in them being able to bring those things as they come up throughout the school year. Have students provide you with their syllabi for their classes. And I'll bring this up a couple of times, and I bring this up in our orientation for them. By you seeing their syllabi for the classes, it does a lot of different things. One, if you've been out of grad school for quite a bit of time, it's always great to be connected to what the current students are learning. And then also it is a way for you to be able to be planful in what you are what the assignments and things like that are going to be done throughout the school year for each of the classes. Some of it may be easily done with what they're doing with you. Some maybe policy work or something, where it might be helpful to be planned for, like, oh, we should have them interview the CEO in order to be able to complete a paper or something like that. So kind of talking to them about that. But it also is continuing to have that connection between the classroom time and the field placement time, which should also build on that mutual, like you learning about what they're learning and being able to have the best experience they can have through the year in that time. Let's talk a little bit about self-reflection. So we talked a little bit, Pam talked a little bit about the competencies and the slight change. This is one of the new competency, how it's written. I just want to go over it as we move and think about self-reflection in this way. Engage anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion in practice. Social workers understand how racism and oppression shape human experiences and how these two constructs influence practice at the individual, family, group, organizational, and community levels, and in policy and research. Social workers understand how diversity and intersectionality shape human experiences and identify, development, and affect equity and inclusion. And I include this when we talk about doing the supervision with the students, is because this, when talking about this, it talks a lot about like what, like outward with the clients and everything like that. Like maybe you're working with clients that look different than you or have different socioeconomic experiences than you. And there's lots of different things we're talking about, but there's also students are coming with those things too. Students are coming from, you know, a different family. Some of our students are coming from small town, moving to the city for the first time. Some of our students have grown up in poverty and have been able to, you know, are now in grad school and wanting to share new and learn new experiences, and how those experiences play for how they work with clients, how they interact in the agency and everything like that. So kind of thinking about how all these things affect not only the clients, but thinking about how they affect the student as a whole. So some of the ways to kind of encourage, and I use the word justice lens for this slide and everything like that, in self-reflection, is kind of thinking about that competency that we talked about. And so some of the things that you may do during supervision is talk to them about how outward identity impacts them and others. And so that's like how they look. So do they look similar, and do they have similar life experiences as to the clients being served, or is it very different? And how does that impact how the clients see them or how they see the clients? Talking to them about their biases, values, cultural context, and how that impacts them. So each one of you all know that you all come to work with your different life experiences, from how you grew up culturally, how and culture even goes into the office culture and everything, and going into how we all have biases and values, and being able to talk about these things in supervision, and especially up front. Like if you feel open to sharing some of your own struggles or some biases that you sometimes have, and how you've grown in living those experiences in the work environment, I think are great ways if you're willing to do that. And then it also allows for students to say, hey, I see my supervisor was willing to be a little vulnerable and everything like that. So, and hopefully opening the door for them being willing to be vulnerable back. Providing a place for students to talk openly about their mistakes. And this is hard for students. Many of our students just want to please you. And, they will tell us that they're like, they don't want to do anything wrong. They want to hold up the ethics and everything like that as a social worker strongly. And so they're afraid to admit their mistakes. And some of the mistakes you may be aware of just because something happened and you have to have a conversation with them and things like that. Other mistakes may be things that you don't know, like maybe they said something they may regretted when they met with the clients and stuff like that, and nobody else was around, nobody else heard it or anything. But we want an environment where they're willing to bring up those experiences with you and everything as much as possible so that they can share about those. And so one way is to potentially use either process recording. So for those of you remember those from your MSW program, possibly in the back in back times or whatever, or utilizing journaling as another way of as an exercise for students and everything like that, where they're kind of talking about what actually happened during an interaction with a client or at an event or during a work experience, noticing how they felt about it, and just kind of evaluating their perceptions and things like that, really trying to encourage that self-reflection on how they responded and how they felt and all those different things as the time goes and everything. And then also personal reflection for yourself. And I know this is, as social workers, we all realize, and we all have biases and different values and different cultural contexts that we're coming to work with and coming in front of the student with, and kind of ourselves as field instructors. The hope would be to reflect on your feelings, because sometimes we've had field instructors, and I have done this too, where it's like your first response is you instantly remember like maybe a negative experience that happened with a previous student that you had worked with, or somebody else in the office, and then you start making assumptions and decisions on how you're going to work through it based on what happened previously and everything, and kind of like reflecting on this, like wow, why did I have such a knee-jerk thoughts and feelings and stuff like that, reactions and everything like that when the student was sharing this experience and everything. And maybe asking yourself, what biases or assumptions am I making towards a student based on my previous experience with students or people in the office and everything, and just reflecting on those. And so then kind of providing a few resources. So one of the examples that I've seen in some learning plans that different field instructors, and some of you may be on here, that I've read that I've been really impressed with, is one asking the student to read a particular article or book or something of the nature in order to connect them to what they're doing or learning about. So one example may be like, not more knowledge of if a student is working with individuals who have been previously incarcerated, and kind of, providing more resources for them to understand kind of what like some of the lived experiences of individuals that have gone through those experiences have, to kind of gather some more information so that they are, can kind of think and learn more about their own biases and everything. And then obviously, as we say multiple times during this training, please connect with us at the school for resources. And we know that some of this self-reflection may be harder for students than others, and especially when they're learning about some really challenging things, whether in the field placement or in school and everything, and during the classes and everything, and may need more, mental health counseling. If they are not in it already, feel free to connect with us, and don't be afraid to talk to the student about that. I know that that's harder for some than others and everything like that, but as social workers, we know that everybody needs support, and if the student is in need of those extra services to kind of reflect on a lot of things that they're discussing and going through, feel free to talk to them about it or connect with us, and we can try to connect with them at the school. So what I want to do next is I wanted to kind of go through some potential student scenarios. And these are similar to things that we've heard either from field instructors or have had students come to us with. And so the first one I want to talk about is, I'll read it out loud and then just reflect on it as I'm reading. And then I'm going to ask you to answer some questions in the chat. So your student, Jamie, who is white, identifies as non-binary, and uses they, them pronouns, has been coming to your supervision time for the last 2 weeks without talking a lot or asking questions. They're in their first year of field placement and are new to Chicago. You have noticed that they have not taken the initiative during any clients' interactions. They have shadowed with you despite you giving them permission to do so. The population you're working with is primarily adults currently struggling with housing, mostly people of color. So when reading this first, what are some of your initial impressions of what you think Jamie may be going through in this particular experience with what you know from the scenario? Anyone want to add some things in the chat? Yeah, safety based on their identity. Really don't know what to do, having difficulty being present, adjusting to a new city, uncomfortable and does not seem to have the rapport with us to talk about it, may have concerns about how clients may perceive them. Yes. So what are some things that could be done for Jamie to help encourage them to whether it be asking more questions, to have interactions, things like that? Their culture policy, yes. Check in with them, role play interactions, yes. And so as we think about these, they have not taken initiative during client interactions, could try to offer specific ways to do this. Talk to me about and ask about it, yes. So there are many good suggestions. So some things I would say is, as we talked about in the previous couple slides and everything like that, are what are like setting things up prior to these situations happening and everything like that. Having that dialogue with the student, maybe sharing some of your own vulnerabilities to open up that like you are some, that you want to add questions, have them ask questions and feel safe to be able to, encourage them to interact. Because we want them to, there's two concerns. Well, there's multiple concerns, but one of the concerns is like, they're not talking a lot during supervision at all too. So it's like, we've got to like whether build the confidence, help them feel safe that they can do those things, have initial conversations about what you have observed, and ask Jamie what they feel strong, confident in, establishing or reestablishing expectations. Yes, definitely, all really good things to think about. And then also, I mean, I will be giving you a tool later also that is it's a form for supervision for the students. Doesn't have to be used, but if you are specifically having a student similar to this that is not coming to supervision, maybe as prepared as you want them to, or asking a lot of questions and things like that, there's a form we'll share with you later that will be something that maybe you could give to the student or come up with your own similarly, that has them fill that out before coming to supervision so that they have kind of had to self-reflect and think about the things prior to your time meeting with them and everything. So, all right, so moving on to the student scenario number 2. Your student, Michelle, is a cisgender African-American female with a few years of work experience in Chicago, but not in social services. She has come to meet with her field liaison, which is us, to discuss a situation that is occurring at her field placement. Michelle admits to feeling uncomfortable going to her field instructor to discuss the situation. She acknowledges that she has enjoyed her work with the youth at the program, but is struggling with one of the staff she works alongside. She has noticed that on more than one occasion, the staff member negatively talked about the youth. And when Michelle commented to the staff on how she thought their assessment was unfair, the staff member rolled their eyes. To complicate the situation, she says she is one of the only African Americans at the site and the clients are primarily people of color. So there's lots of dynamics in the situation. And this is a similar situation that actually occurred with me last year. And then a student came to me, and the biggest number one thing is that the student came to me first. And there's nothing wrong. We encourage the students to come to us and everything like that. But we want the students to be able to come to you. And so what are some things that you think, and if you could put them in the chat, that maybe could be done up front in order to encourage so that this student will feel comfortable coming to you with their concerns? I know they might need to read it again. Any thoughts on what could be done up front? Yeah, okay, here we go. The minimum, the field liaison could suggest a meeting of the three of us so that we can make a plan together. Yes, that would be something that we would do after. So what could we do before the beginning of the intern, ensuring that they know that what is said in supervision is between student and I, perhaps she not feel safe reporting another employee. Yes. Before starting, making sure the on-site employees understand the role of the intern student. Yes. Talk to them early on about staff dynamics and discuss coming if there are problems with employees. Yeah, those are some good suggestions. And yeah, incorporate DEI reflection into weekly supervision to create dialogue where they can bring these concerns up regularly. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Maybe that's something to put on like an agenda for you in supervision, whether you do it weekly or at least once a month or something like that, to kind of talk about these things. And, you know, in the beginning, make opening up that this is that you are a person that they can come and talk to about things like that, and what that would look like if something were to occur, like how you would handle it and everything, so that they know what that would look like. Orienting colleagues in the program about the student program and looking at agency appropriate. Yeah. So I can always tell the individuals who probably supervise employees and everything like that, that their biggest concern is the other employee and their response and everything like that, which obviously is a concern and needs to be addressed separately. For this, I was focusing more so on how the student, on the student and everything like that. So the hope is, like previously, as I talked about, in kind of ways to encourage a justice-led lens and self-reflection, just kind of go back to this slide and everything like that, like, talking about, and this is one of those that's talking about how our identity impacts them and others and everything. In this particular student, that obviously comes up as their identity is similar to probably many of the clients, but not as similar to the employees in the office. And in some instances, that may be flipped and everything like that, where the student is in, is in the majority and the clients are in the minority and everything like that. So those are all things. Let's see. To be open with students about your own identity and values, so they know, yes, definitely that goes back to all these and everything, and how that impacts. And then obviously once, hoping that they're coming to you and talk about then there's different ways of how you can manage the other employee situation and everything, but just making it an open situation. Thanks for going through all those couple scenarios. I'm sure many of you have lots of other scenarios that you could bring, and we could spend hours going through like how you managed it and ways that you felt you did well at it, and other times you make mistakes, because just like the students make mistakes, as we are human too, and we make mistakes sometimes in how we interact with the students. So now when we talk about evaluation time, we kind of want to bring all this together and how this plays out, so that the students understand kind of like how they are being evaluated and stuff. So talking to your student about their coursework, as we talked earlier about, and reviewing that syllabi and making those connections really does help kind of bring theory to practice, and kind of seeing how they're integrating what they're learning in class to how they're showing it up, like showing up at the field placement and using it, providing feedback to students on strengths and areas of growth. Please do this with your students. I think sometimes field instructors are better at providing all the strengths, but not it's a little more challenging for them to provide that feedback on where they need to grow. then every once in a while you'll have a student that has got a lot of stuff going on. You know, they've got personal emergencies all the time. They, you know, they may have some mental health challenges because of all those things that are going on. And then grad school takes up a lot of time. They're not getting sleep. And so there's a lot of different areas. And they're probably not, some of them may not perform at their best and everything. And so sometimes it's hard to focus on those strengths and everything when you're having to work with a student on a lot of different areas of growth and everything like that. But please remember to bring out those strengths and share those with the students, and ensure that the student is aware of any of your concerns or areas of improvement prior to the written evaluation at the end of the semester. You know, we get students sometimes, they'll come to us and say, I had no idea this was an issue. Like, this was like, I was evaluated in the semester evaluation. This was never brought to my attention before. And I'm worried how this is going to look because now it's on paper that's being submitted to the school and everything like that. And we, you know, encourage them, work with them. And we can always set up a time to meet with you and the field instructor to kind of help have those conversations if there are some challenges or areas of concern that need to be discussed, more so than just your conversation with them. And then in the actual semester evaluation, please actually include examples of areas that strengthen, examples of like when they did something well. And then there's the area where, what are the things that they, areas of improvement. And, you know, some of you are going to have like stellar students that you can barely find anything that they have ever made a mistake on and everything like that. And obviously, there are different things that, you know, like a better understanding of the competencies and different things like that to kind of encourage growth as we move through the career and stuff like that. So a few resources. I wish that we had the ability to share this book. It is a really great book. And if you have fun through your organization or really enjoy reading and everything, this is a book for you as field instructors. It's called Learning to Teach, Teaching to Learn, a Guide for Social Work Field Education. And it's textbook. So it's dense like a textbook and everything, but it is really has a lot of valuable information and really connects kind of what you're doing to the competencies and everything, and gives what I really enjoyed about it is it gives a lot of scenarios and everything and really breaks it down of like how things can conversations can go with the student, how you can work with the school and everything. So just throwing that out there, if you have the ability to get that would you might find that very valuable. I am going, as I said earlier, I'll put it in the chat. I'll work on that as Pamela is finishing up. She's got some things she's going to do at the end. So I'll make sure I put that in the chat before the end, the supervision template that I talked to. And this is something that you can use for any student, but it might be specifically helpful for students. It's something they fill out to come to before coming to supervision. And I've had other field instructors who come up with their own way and everything like that, just to make sure that everything's covered, that the student understands. Because some students are, you know, come and they have tons of stuff to talk about and the hour's over in it really quickly. Other students are like, things are fine. It's okay. I have no questions. And I mean, we've all had students like that, whether it's because they're more introverted or not self-confident or whatever the reason is. This may be something that may help you to be able to kind of have more conversations and stuff. And then obviously remember that the concept of process recordings or journaling for students, I think that can be really helpful for them to and if you read through and you can kind of see what kind of what their thought process is as they go through the different experiences and everything. And then obviously us, once again, we're here to answer and support you. Just like I tell the students if they need to meet with me to kind of get some coaching on how to have a hard conversation with you. Similarly, you are welcome to reach out to us and to kind of talk about how we can help support you in having a hard conversation with a student. But yeah, please reach out as much as and as often as you would like. Thank you for your time, and I will stop sharing my screen and give it over to Pamela.
Thank you very much, Carol. Thank you. I think that was, just definitely timely. Of course, everyone's doing supervision with their students right now, and a lot of those issues come up on both sides. Just can't reiterate enough. please, reach out to your your student's liaison, to have the conversations that you need to have with them so we can work together as a team. Okay, at this time, I'm just gonna open it up to questions before making a couple quick announcements.
I have a
Yes.
question. Does UIC have any substance abuse credentialing, the CADC credentialing?
You know what? I do not believe that we do.
Okay.
We only offer that course as an elective course. It's an elective course on substance abuse, but we don't offer a CADC here.
Okay, I just wanted to check because we are a CADC site, so MSWs can get both at the same time. So that's why I was asking.
Oh, that's wonderful. We have some students who come to us and they already have it, but then we also have students who are seeking that in conjunction with their MSW. So that's a great resource.
And then my
And
secondary pardon?
I'm sorry, I was just going to ask, can you remind me what agency you're with?
I'm
What
from
organization?
Nakasa Behavioral Health in Lake County. And I know Aurora has a CADC program, so that's why we get a lot of clients, or I mean, a lot of students that do dual at the same time, and the placement counts for both. So it's really it's a perk. So just if you ever want to do a CADC program. My second question is, the students told me for their first placement, it was 16 hours a week, but then you showed 15 hours a week. So is 16 okay?
16 is fine.
Okay.
And I put 15 just as I put 21, but we tell the students 15 to 16 or 21 to 24, because if they do just 15, the way that works out mathematically is exactly at 450. We suggest that they do 16 so they have a little cushion to play with around certain things. The same with the 21 to 24.
Thank you very much for the clarification.
No problem. Any other questions about anything you've heard here today? Okay. All right.
I put the
Well,
document in the chat. I just wanted to share that. I just want to make sure if anybody wanted it.
so thank you, Carol. That is a template that you can use with the student if you have one of those kind of reluctant, very quiet students that doesn't know how to approach supervision. It's just something to get them thinking prior to coming. Okay. Oh, I see a couple questions in the chat. So there's a question, will we get the CEUs by email? Yes, those will be emailed to you. It will take some time. I know that we have to go through a whole university, and so it may take a few weeks. Please be patient with us. You will get them, but it will be a few weeks. I wish we could turn them around right away, but we are going through a little bit of a transition in that department. Okay, when will you start doing site visits? We like to make sure that the students have been in placement for at least 5 to 6 weeks prior to doing start visits. But you should be getting introductions because we have to meet you sooner than that. Just the liaison introducing themselves and then maybe asking you what time is convenient for a site visit. And then they'll be setting up their calendar to do those. It is our goal to have those site visits completed by the end of the semester, which is the week of December 6th. To have all of them. The liaisons have really big caseloads. They have, 80 to 90 students, sometimes close to 100 students, but they still try to do those. And those can be either virtually or in person. For our agencies that are new to us, we try to do in person so that we can see the site and see what's going on there. But we know Zoom has made things very convenient for people who want to do it virtually. Okay. Okay. So just wanted to add a few closing notes. I'm going to lean on Carol's word. She was talking about supervision, but I'm going to talk about the concept of mutuality as it relates to field instruction. Again, we thank you for giving of your time. Sometimes we'll have students say, oh, they're, these agencies are just using me. They're using me for free labor. And we stress to them that field instruction it's a class. It looks different than sitting in a room and having a lecture and writing notes and writing papers on it, but it is a class. So they should be treating it as a class, and they should be working with you and getting something out of it. But we hope our field instructors are getting something out of it too. We are exploring ways to show our appreciation more than just saying a thank you, trying to offer some perks. But some of the mutuality that we hope are getting from it is the students are able to share with you some things that they are learning. We are actually, UIC is a research institution. So we have professors engaged in a number of research topics, and hopefully, they can share those best practices and things with you that they are getting from their instructors. It should really be a symbiotic relationship. They should be able to contribute to your organization and your agency and hopefully your learning. And then they are in turn are learning to become a social work professional. Okay. As I mentioned, we're really heavily stressing our ability to support you and the instruction part of field instruction. And to that end, we hope to have a few brown bags. We have something coming up. You'll get a flyer sent to you. Sorry, my other document closed over here and I need to pull it up. We're asking you to save the date of October 9th. There will be a workshop that we're really looking forward to. It'll be a 2-hour workshop. And this will be another virtual one. We are going to try and do something in person. We'd love to see you in person and, smile, shake your hand, elbow bump, or whatever you're comfortable with, just to get in each other's space a little bit. But this one will be virtual. It'll be 2 hours, October 9th, from 10 to noon. And the title will be, and it'll be, CEUs will be awarded, Supporting Queer and Trans Social Work Interns, Best Practices for Field Instructors. So some of you may work in organizations where you work with clients that are part of that population, but we have students, of course, who are part of that population. And we have an outside presenter named Carolyn Walscog, who is with Youth Outlook, who will be giving that presentation. So we hope that you can make it. It's again a good way to stock up on some of those CEUs, and we hope to be able to offer you more things of that nature, some more programming of that nature. So, okay. Is there a cost? No, there's not a cost. This is free. So this is our gift to you. Like I said, we're really trying to look for ways to show that appreciation, and hopefully there'll be more announcements coming down the pike. Okay. All right, everyone. Well, have a wonderful afternoon. Enjoy the sunshine, and thank you for coming. Oh, one last thing. I'm sorry, in terms of housekeeping, I mentioned the CEUs. We'll also be sending you a survey. So if you could please complete that evaluation and send it to us as soon as possible, that would be great. Thank you very much. Bye.
Hi, everyone.
So we have a couple people who may have stepped away.
Pamela, I don't know, there's a suggestion from Amanda Bowers in regards to the days of the, what do you call it? Trainings, I'm assuming, or workshops?
Oh, okay, we only have one date set, and that's the October 9th one.
What day is that?
So
That's a
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. And today, oh, I guess today's, what's today? Today's Thursday. We're mixing it up.
Okay. Okay, it's only the team left. Okay, so we
I
have time
think that
for
October
a,
9th is ringing a bell for something. I feel like we have something on that day.
I think that's the day she asked us. So it's confirmed that it's the 9, Pam? Because I had the 9,
yes,
the 10 with the like, kind of like.
right, that was the 9th or the 10th, and the 9th
There's a
works best.
lecture on the 10th. Is that what you're thinking of, Kim?
Is that the Butcher lecture on the 10th?
That's on, yeah, that's on the next day.
No, I'm thinking about, didn't Dr. McKay send something out to us about a faculty meeting or something? Cause I remember she sent the email and she asked us if we had questions for DRC.
Oh, for the, yeah.
Is that on the 9th or did she want the questions by the 9th? Cause that date, I think I put it on my calendar.
I thought it was gonna be during the next faculty meeting that the,
It does say has agreed to our faculty meeting on the 9th. Now, I need to speak with her because I asked her, and she might not have known about this or forgot about it, but I asked her to check the calendar before we even scheduled this to see if the 9th or the 10th were okay. And she said the 9th, so.
Well, I mean, we
have
usually
to
always have
follow her.
faculty meetings on